Welcome to Baby Narc. So you know how I told you that Brian was a musician or is a musician? He's great. He is, I would have to say that he is definitely a musical genius and a real dumbass musical genius. He can hear a song once, maybe twice, and play the whole thing. I mean, like almost like concert level. I mean, he plays like rock, and he was in those kinds of bands. And he's a pretty good singer too. His voice has gotten better just in the time that I've known him. And of course, if he didn't smoke like a freight train, he'd probably have a better voice. I would say that other than him being a complete maniac, he deserves to be in a band, in a successful band. Um, just like he was. He was actually in three successful bands way back, eons ago. And he still sees himself that way. He sees himself as a rock star. But then the flip side of that is he thinks of himself as a complete failure, a has been. And that is true, I mean, it is what it is. But that's his own doing. He fucked up things in three different bands. Now, a couple of these guys, in that realm, everybody just kind of plays in each other's bands. So it wasn't like it was brand spanking new people all three times. But, and of course, things happened. I think at one point they were asked to go on tour, and the drummer kind of freaked out. And I guess I don't know if he had a wife or girlfriend. They had like a little baby, so he didn't want to do that. So that was the reason that band didn't get successful. And then Brian always says that Shelley, his wife, was the cause of all of the breakup in his entire musical career. I guess what would happen is she and her big fake titties would she dress practically naked, and she would go to his shows, and instead of sitting there like a decent girlfriend and being supportive, which I would do because I've dated guys in bands, instead of her being like that, she would be at the bar hooking up with people, getting guys to buy her drinks, and she would go off with guys. And I guess at one point, this one band that Brian was in, they had an A&R guy there watching them, to possibly give them a deal, because this is way back when the music industry was, ran like that. And uh, Brian freaked out because Shelley was talking to a bunch of guys, and he on stage goes crazy, and I guess he jumped off the stage and attacked those guys in front of the A&R guy. So I was into that. And he's his own worst enemy. Now, of course, this was back when they were young, very young, 20s, and then she was a horrible monster herself. She's a narcissist too. I said these narcs, they run in packs. Well, they hang out with one another until they get whoever screws whoever over the most. The lesser narc in that situation will leave the relationship, whether it be a relationship, friendship, even family. Yeah, so they run in packs, and until they just can't stand, they've done the ultimate shit to each other, and then or they will find another person or an empath to hook up with, and once again, not even just like love relationships, but family, work, friends, whatever. They will find someone else, because they're always looking to take advantage of somebody, and it's way easier to take advantage of somebody who's not a narcissist than to continue a volatile relationship with another narcissist. So, but nevertheless, so anyway, he had a lot of success and put out a couple albums. And this is all local, because they never did go on tour. And this was also back when the music industry was way better than it is. But of course, there was no social media, no online stuff. You literally had to go to the record store to buy stuff. So if, local bands didn't have their albums in every record store nation or worldwide. So, until you did that, you didn't really get to the upper echelon of that success. But he would have, if he wasn't such a fucking maniac. And then, if he wasn't a maniac himself, and if she wouldn't have been in his life, or he would have gotten rid of her, and if he would have been smart, he would have, he would have figured out a way to be successful. And the other thing about him too is, he wants to be he wants to be the one who's in control. So, you get a band of four dudes together, and already, musicians, everybody's got, we call it lead singer-itis, where everyone thinks that they're the star of the show. Even the drummer, even if they don't sing, they still have that lead singer-itis because, and two, men, I don't know, maybe it might be different with like four chicks in a band, but four dudes talented in a band, you're going to have every single one of them thinking or wanting to be in charge. And now, of course, real successful bands, they get a manager who kind of squashes all that drama so that the manager and the producer and, whoever's, actually, funding the whole thing, they put the hammer down on as much of that drama as possible. But when you have four dudes starting out trying to get famous, you have clashing personalities. And then, of course, you throw a person like Brian into the mix, he is going to sabotage everything. And, anybody who has a great idea, because it wasn't his idea, he's going to somehow make it seem like that's not a good idea. Either ignore it or whatever. And just, in my relationship with him, I can tell you verbatim exactly how things went when he was in these bands. And I've never known him while he was in a band, because when he was in those bands, I didn't live here, and he hasn't obviously been in a band since. Although, well, so, I'm sorry, I always say so. I'm going to stop saying that. Well, you know how I said that he's been on his meth bender for the past 5 months? About 5, maybe 6 months ago, he met some dude, and I don't know how they met. This guy just popped up in his life. For some reason, I thought that they had already known each other. I don't know. Or, a bunch of druggies, they all do know each other. And so this guy pops up in his life, and he has a little shed outside in his backyard that he's kind of turned into a studio, which, that's fine, that's great. And he has professional recording equipment and computer and everything, and a bunch of guitars and things like that. And then he knew another guy that was a drummer, so it was the perfect situation, the three of them. And they started recording like a little mini album. And but of course, this dude is also a freaking tweaker. Now, I don't know about the drummer. I only met him one time, and he seemed a little weird. And so anyway, so Brian was going over there every night. I mean, and of course, standing me up on our dates to go do that. And then, of course, that was the perfect excuse as to why he would stand me up, because, he's got to go work on this album. And because I've been so extremely, extremely supportive of his musical career, because I do believe in him. Even if I just knew this dude and had no feelings for him whatsoever, he's an amazing musician, and he's a writer. So he writes lyrics, he sings, and he plays guitar, and oh my gosh, he's so good. And he could either be in a cover band or a band where they write their own music, or a combination of the two. I mean, he's freaking talented. And I knew that when we were teenagers. In fact, I would get him to try to teach me how to play guitar. He was like my guitar teacher. Well, whatever. And so I have been massively supportive of his musical career. So, and he knows that. So he knows that, standing me up for our date, or, disappearing, he figured that I'd be fine with it, because his excuse was always, well, I've been over at Cody's and we've been, practicing and stuff and recording. And then here's how he works me. What am I supposed to say? What am I supposed to do? Blow up? I mean, yes, that is what I'm supposed to do. But of course, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, this dude finally has an opportunity with somebody who has professional equipment and the ability to actually record something. And the music industry, once again, you've got to have recorded material that you get out on, through the internet, whatever. I mean, you have to. I mean, you'll never do anything, it's not like, you have $1 million to book a venue and go on tour and tour bus, So the only way to do anything at all is to have recorded music and get it out there, So I, every time I start to get mad at him, I stop myself, because I'm like, well, finally he's got this opportunity. But of course, they did way more drugs than they did practicing and recording. And then this 5 months of him hanging out pretty much every night when he'd get off work and into the morning. And I don't know about what the neighbors thought about this, but they would play. I mean, that studio wasn't soundproof. I mean, it kind of was, but not, so you could still hear it. But, whatever. I guess the neighbors were fine with it. So they would play until, 7 o'clock in the morning. And I went over there a few times. But, it was kind of gross or whatever, and, whatever. He, like I said, he took this opportunity where he was supposed to be practicing and writing music and recording music, and it just turned into another way to do drugs. And he has gotten so much worse in this time period, and damn, that's real shame, because but see, he's his own worst enemy. Every time there's an opportunity for him to get off of this horrible merry-go-round, and, part of his shame, a huge part of it, is about the music, and I get it, everybody, whatever we have a passion for in life, if we're not able to do that thing, it, it really eats away at us. So finally, he had hooked up with somebody with professional equipment, had an opportunity, and then it just turned into a freaking drug thing. So the point of this video was that so for his birthday last year, before he met this Cody guy, his birthday last year, he wanted this really nice guitar, and very specific, and he's so picky and so judgmental that he had to have the exact guitar, color, everything, brand, the whole thing. And I spent a lot of money on this thing. I bought him the guitar, and I bought him an amp too, but it was like a shitty amp. So uh, when I gave it to him, he was super stoked. I mean, I bought him a lot of gifts, and a lot of times his gifts that I buy him go disappearing. He either throws them away, gives them away, who knows. But not this guitar. He really appreciated this thing. But he appreciated the guitar, not the person who gave it to him. And the very first thing that he said was he started kind of crying. And, whenever he cries, I never know if it's real or not. But he did get pretty choked up. And he's like, wow, nobody's ever given me anything this awesome before. And it was pretty spectacular, actually. And then, of course, the second thing out of his mouth was, I can't accept this. I should have taken it out of his hand and said, no problem, and left and sold it or taken it back, whatever. Because what he meant by I can't accept this is, you're trying to buy my love. You're trying to hurt me in some sort of way because that's how I treat people. And you have some sort of ulterior motive for giving me this guitar. And now I'm going to somehow be beholden to you. And now I'm going to have to treat you nice for a longer period of time than I want to, because to fake like I appreciate what you did for me, because that's how narcissists think. They, the rest of us don't even think. We're just like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. I can't believe it. It was so cool. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. But they immediately, those wheels in their brain start turning and churning, and they start concocting a whole story in their head. And so he's immediately thinking that I'm doing something wrong. Isn't that crazy? That's, oh God, it's so depressing. So you can't win with these people. If you're mean to them, you're terrible. If you're nice to them, you're terrible. You're just terrible. And they're terrible to you. Okay. Last night, we've been, this whole texting drama that has really been the catalyst for me making all these videos. Okay. So on social media, throughout now he only started this. So I gave him this guitar last year. And he never posted any kind of pictures of it or said anything, whatever. I don't even know if he even told anybody. I mean, his parents knew because I took it over to him at his house when I gave it to him. But I don't, he doesn't go around town telling anyone that I'm the one who gave that to him. And he, on social media, he had never posted anything about it. And then, like I said, this past 5 months of hanging out with Cody, all of a sudden he starts posting pictures and even videos of him playing it and even talking about it and being silly, like pretending that it's a woman, because that's kind of a thing with musicians, is they pretend that their guitar is a woman, it's kind of a thing. And some of his stuff is funny, but then everything always has some sort of underlying meaning to it. And on social media, I mean, he's kind of been doing it a lot. And nowhere in there did he ever mention my name. He didn't even say, hey, my girlfriend got me this. I mean, well, because I guess in his mind he didn't have a girlfriend. And he didn't mention anything. A couple nights ago, now he on social media, he will will be like friends or whatever, and then he'll unfriend me and then friend me back. I mean, it's this weird game that's been going on since day one. We weren't like whatever. So um, he's, and so, he never puts anything nice on like any of my pictures or videos. He never, and other guys do, and he doesn't, nothing. He didn't even like anything, nothing. And I had put a couple of posts up, and he's got this mean sense of humor, and he just like made like these a couple of kind of rude comments on some stuff on my stuff. It had nothing to do with anything. It had nothing to do with anything about nothing. It was just like, I think one was like an animal thing. Like it just weird. It's so weird. So it pissed me off. And then we kind of got into an argument about it. And I was like, why do you won't say anything nice to me on there, but then you kind of attack me with this stuff. He's like, oh, I'm just kidding, man. You just can't take anything. You know how he does. And I've been kind of pissed off about it. And he's like, well, I'll just erase everything. I'm like, no, because I'm thinking to myself, you know what, keep it. I want the whole world to see how you treat me. I got pretty pissed, and I went on his social media on two, because he's got multiple postings of that guitar and talking about how beautiful it is, and just going on and on about the guitar, but not talking about me at all. I put on both postings, oh baby, thank you, or no, baby, I'm so happy that you love this guitar so much. It was really hard for me trying to find the exact one that you wanted, and it just makes me feel so great that you love it so much and you appreciate it so much. I couldn't help myself because he deserves it. And I've thought about doing that for a long time, actually. But I was always like, ugh. Because once again, I don't want to look crazy. Because these narcs, they want us to look crazy. Because if we look crazy to everybody else, then they can say and do whatever they want to us. And if anybody catches them doing stuff to us, then they'll already have an excuse. They'll be like, well, of course I treat her like shit because she deserves it. Look how she treats, So I'm very, very careful about letting the world know that I'm not the crazy girlfriend that he thinks I am. And I'm sure he tells people that I am. But see, if I don't show any of that, then they can be like, what? I don't, So I couldn't help myself. And I left the posting on there, and I knew I'd get in trouble for it somehow. I knew either he'd just erase it, not say anything, or that he would attack me privately, or that he might even attack me on there. And he did. He attacked me on, not too bad though, not too bad. It was basically like, so sorry I didn't tell the world that it was you who got me this guitar, and I hope you know that I do appreciate it. And I ask you, and this is public, I never ask you to buy this for me. I've never asked you to buy me anything. But you know what? That's okay. And then I thought too that he would go back in and erase that, but it's still on there. I hope the whole world sees it. I want people to see how he treats me. Of course, I don't know why I waste my time, because anybody who has stayed in his life for any period of time, come on, they know how he is. And anybody in their right mind who would be a new person in his life, who would catch his antics, they would probably just disappear from him real quick anyway. Because once again, we're not kids, we're adults. And people ain't got time for that shit. I mean, yeah, you gotta see the guitar. It's really pretty. And I feel like one day he's gonna like come to my door and just like shove it in my face and be like, here, just, you always rubbing shit in my face, blah, 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 blah. If he does, that's fine. We'll take it. I'll take it, and I'll save it for my new boyfriend, because, I love musicians. So I'm convinced that the guy that I'm supposed to be with, I keep talking about him a lot to you, huh? It's like, Maybe it's gonna happen. Hopefully he's a musician and I'll give him that guitar. Okay. Remember, the lesson is never get with an arc. And if you are with one, get away from them. Don't buy them guitars. Hit them in the head with the guitar and run away.